Joining me now is American Culture Project Senior Fellow Corey DeAngelis. Corey, if Tim Walz thinks he can play the victim after overseeing the mass fraud that has occurred in his state, then he's a bigger fool than we thought. What happened in Minnesota is utterly shameful.
Yeah, look, he's trying to deflect here. He's a total failure. He's a political failure. Speaking of violence, he was basically the death knell for the Kamala Harris campaign. They committed political suicide when they picked Tim Walz to be VP. I mean, who thought he was going to mobilize the young male vote, for example? Tampon Tim. That's the perfect person to pick in order to get Trump into the White House. So good job, Kamala Harris campaign. But yeah, in Minnesota, they had $300 million that was supposed to go to kids to feed them during the COVID era, and it was fraudulently spent, apparently. So Tim Walz is obviously trying to deflect here. He's clutching his pearls. For him to do a press conference about this, and oh my goodness, Trump called me the R word. That only really upsets you if it has a little bit of a truth to it. So maybe he's admitting something personal about himself. But I think the real story here is that he's trying to deflect. He's clutching his pearls, trying to point at Trump and trying to whip up the base against his political opponents. But this responsibility falls on him. This happened under his watch with the fraud in his state. And look, he's a political failure. So hopefully people forget about him sooner than later.
Well, the scale of the fraud is quite astonishing. They were talking about $1 billion. Now there's figures emerging of 3, 4, 5 billion. So at some point we'll get a clear picture of how much was just squandered there. Now, Corey, I want to ask you about my favourite story of the day. This is just, it's almost like a comedy sketch, this. This is the Soccer World Cup. We know it's going to be in North America in 2026. And naturally, the leftist city of Seattle wants to host a pride game to celebrate the LGBTQIA++ community. And let's see who FIFA scheduled for this game. Yes, it's Iran, where homosexuality is illegal and even carries the death sentence. And Iran was drawn to play against Egypt, another country where homosexuality is illegal and carries a prison term of up to 3 years. How did this happen, Corey?
I mean, it's beyond parody, right? That was a Daily Wire article that I read about this, but I thought it was a headline from the Babylon Bee. This can't be true, can it? But look, it really reminds me of the horseshoe theory of politics, where you had the far left loonies in Seattle basically siding with the far right, who might not be happy about countries like Iran and Egypt right now, kind of locking arms on this issue. But really, who kind of scheduled this? I don't know. They say that it was pre-scheduled and it kind of just turned out this way. It was a coincidence. It was either a big coincidence or the far left was really trying to piss off Iran and Egypt. But, maybe Iran and Egypt will pull out of the World Cup, but no one will miss them. It's not like they were going far anyway.
No, I don't think they're going to be pulling out of the World Cup. It's a pretty big deal. The Egyptian Football Association has already sent a formal letter to FIFA requesting this LGBTQIA+ pride match, a celebration at the World Cup, not go ahead, so they can just play a regular game without any of that political messaging. We'll see what happens there. Now, Corey, tell me about what else is happening in Washington State. There's female students there fighting for a ballot initiative to protect girls' sports, and there's also another initiative to strengthen parental rights after Washington State passed legislation that removed the requirement for parents to receive notice when their children receive non-emergency medical services at school. That just seems incredible that your child could be receiving some sort of medical care. I don't know, perhaps some sort of hormones or puberty blockers, and the parents aren't advised. What's likely to happen in these cases?
Yeah, the lunatics at the teachers' unions are trying to keep secrets from parents. And guess what? There's these two initiatives that are probably going to make it onto the ballot. It looks like they're going to have enough signatures to restore parental rights in education. and protect girls' sports, keep boys out of girls' sports. These are 80-20 issues on the side of the Republicans. Let's see if they can get it done in a deep blue state controlled by Democrats and teachers unions in Washington. It'll be a very unique test case. But the teachers union, the Washington Education Association, is the main opponent of these two initiatives. They don't want to put it to the ballot. They know they're going to lose. So they're starting an initiative of themselves to stop people from signing the sheets in order to get it on the ballot in November of 2026. So there's events held right now by Let's Go Washington, the main group in favor of protecting girls' sports and parental rights in education. And there was a recent event where you had high school girls basically speaking out, saying there was a boy in my locker room. This didn't make any sense and it's unsafe. And so it's really a shame that the dads haven't really stepped up in stronger numbers. It's a shame that the girls themselves had to come out and say, you know what? Adults shouldn't pressure young girls to undress in front of boys and men. I mean, this is just common sense stuff. But the liberal lunatics have gone so far off the deep end, and the teachers unions are dragging them down every step of the way. But hopefully parents will win this case in Washington, and it'll lay a blueprint for other blue states to go forward and do the right thing as well.
Now, before you go, Corey, I want to play you this exchange between Alex Brusewitz and a journalist at the Doha Forum a few days ago. This was all about the stolen election narrative.
And Alex, no matter how many times you repeat that there was a rigged election, there is no evidence of that. But anyway, in my question...
You're very confident saying there is no evidence of a rigged election. Are you familiar with a guy named Hunter Biden? Well, if you're not familiar, he was Joe Biden's son. And he liked to have relations with prostitutes and film it and put it on a laptop. He liked to do crack cocaine and film it and put it on a laptop. And everybody in the legacy media, they said that is something called Russian disinformation. It wasn't Russian disinformation. That was a true laptop. Nobody in the media covered it. And if you posted about it on social media, you got censored and lost your account. And so after the election, it came out and they said, if you knew that laptop was real, would you have voted for Joe Biden? 20% of people who voted for Joe Biden said they wouldn't have done so. So if you're talking about just one aspect, that's called rigging an election.
Corey, that doesn't even begin to cover the money that they spent fortifying the election, as Time Magazine put it. Tell me about this ongoing debate about the 2020 election and the many ways in which that election result was influenced.
Yeah, I like how that questioner at the Doha Forum was basically tried to slide that in there. There's no evidence of a rigged election. Then he tried to ask some other question. Good thing on Alex for calling him out and setting the record straight. I mean, look, the New York Post, I remember on Twitter at the time before Elon Musk was in charge and changed it over to X, you couldn't even post that New York Post article. It would just, it wouldn't allow you to do it. So that is interference in the election. And so, it goes so many layers deeper than that. But at the end of the day, I'm kind of happy that Trump didn't win the 2020 election, because now we have Trump 2.0. You only get 2 4-year terms here in America. And so I'm glad he's president right now. And he's, after all that's happened to him and the election being stolen from him in 2020, he's kind of gone, full throttle now. And I think we've gotten even more emboldened Trump than we would have beforehand.
I think you're right there. And you've got a far sounder administration. He's got much better people around him. I think one of the greatest mistakes of his first term was some of the judgment calls he made in the people he put in positions. And this time around, he seems to have everyone on the same team going in the one direction. Corey DeAngelis, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Hey, thanks, Rita. Good talking to you.